sign it, you give it to her today, and she can notarize it.
But it was
I won't say they were.
30 pages, so.
It was? I definitely didn't read it all verbatim. Is there gonna be a test on this? Yeah. I swear I got it. I went to bed at 9 o'clock last night, woke up at 4, fell asleep at 1. I consider taking under my desk. I come up from work.
Well, same old. I got a little something for you too. So there's enjoy your reading. As always.
Well,
Why did you do that? Don't turn it off though.
Steve just told me that we should be starting at like 5 minutes before. So I better do that.
I do, yeah, well, it could be, we could go the other way, so I think you better appreciate it if it's that way instead of the other way. I'm wondering. Hi there. I agree. Yeah. Can you move the Christmas lights?
So we just move the Christmas up to right here in the first action.
Yeah, we could do it right after the police event, or we could do it first. Frost? That's sixes. Sometimes it's good to see.
Right after we get the promotions and the police.
I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
Who's got this? Who's got this?
I don't have it. Morgan says she's
Morgan's
got
got
it.
it. Okay, she can work those, so I just, yeah, that's a good idea. We heard I talked, and I said, let me know if you want to move that up, and she never come back, but she's been busy, so I agree, let's get them in, get them out, so they can go and do it.
Yeah.
Say no, all right.
Your Ben?
If he wouldn't put this,
Your buddy Ben?
this little option table here,
In private
I'd
business.
have got a picture of Amy in mine. I was that close.
Where are you? Okay. Where you're at?
Is that the December final? Is that-
You had any problems with Christmas?
Yeah, because there's a little pavilion right here.
Jason, you ready? Okay. Hey, we'd like to welcome everybody out today. Thank you for joining us. We have, you got your recorder going? Perfect. Okay, excellent. Okay, anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We've asked, let me just welcome everybody and recognize we have Councilmember Tafoya, Councilmember Yeoman, Councilmember Burrell, Councilmember Saxton, and Councilmember Paul joining us tonight. And again, we appreciate your attendance. We've asked Councilmember Tafoya if he would go ahead and lead us in a moment of silence and also lead us in a pledge of allegiance. Council member?
Please bow your head for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a few things to do tonight, so be patient with us. We got a lot of things going on. We'd like to start off, if we can, to do some consent items, specifically the approval of the November 20th, December 4th Royce City Council meeting minutes, and then the approval of an alcoholic beverage license for Royce Sinclair located at 5608 South, 1900 West. Council, any comments, questions, concerns with those two consent items?
No. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the November 20th and December 4th city council minutes as written. Also, the approval of the alcoholic beverage license at Royce Sinclair located at 5608 South, 1900 West.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, see none, thank you. Okay, we got some action items. We'd like to turn some time over to the chief for some swearing in of new officers. Exciting night, thanks.
Mayor, council, city manager. We've got 3 officers we want to swear in tonight. We've got 2 that just finished the police academy, and the other one that we stole from another agency, so we want to bring those up. If we could have Jake Fowers, Todd Fowers, and Kevin Jared Smith come up. And the 2 Fowers are not related, so we don't have a nepotism problem. Okay, so we stole this guy here from Clinton.
Okay.
One of the outstanding officers over there was a K-9 handler, so we know that he was one of their top officers. He's now with us. Has how many years?
Going on 7 now.
7 years of service, so bringing more experience in the department. And we have these 2 gentlemen that just finished the academy last week, just started this week, into the field training program. So
Okay.
if we could have them sworn in. And,
Morgan,
they're
you ready?
already working, but we'll have them sworn in.
Let's do it.
Jake Fowers. Stand somewhere down here. All right.
Okay, and then you'll just want to raise your right arm for me and just repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jake Fowers,
Having been elected or appointed
having been elected or appointed
to the office of police officer,
to the office of police officer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey,
that I will support, obey,
and defend the Constitution
and defend the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I just want to say that we stole Todd from Public Works, so we're keeping it in-house.
I state your name.
I, Todd Powers,
Having been elected or appointed
having been elected or appointed
to the office of police officer,
to the office of police officer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
and that I will discharge the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Kevin?
And then we stole Kevin, or Jared, we stole him from the fire department. He probably just wants to get to the call first now for a change and see what that's like.
Hey, if I may interject real quick.
No.
Jared, I want you to raise your, let me see your hands. Raise your right hand. No, your right one. And face it to the council. It's a red firefighter watch that he still has on. Just want to make that.
He's also the son of Captain Kevin Smith.
Oh, okay, perfect.
I state your name. Having been elected or appointed to the office of police officer, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Chief, could we also, before you get done, could we have them introduce their families if they're here?
Yes.
Thank you.
You guys want to come back up and introduce your families?
Okay, so my wife Danielle, stand up for me. This is my 2-year-old daughter Ella,
Oh, cool.
and then to the right of my wife is my sister Becky, and my mother Shauna, and these are my niece and nephew. I have a lot of people here today apparently.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
In the back there, with the leather coat on, that's my dad Brian, and my nephew Bryden, and my friend Jared and Camille.
Great.
She's all here for me.
Super. Hey, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming and serving. Thank you.
So I have my wife Brittany, stand up. She also works over in utilities department. And my dad Kim, and my grandmother Lorraine, and my aunt Lori, and my mom Sherry, all from Roy.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thanks for joining us. Please.
I got my dad, Kevin, and my mom back here, Therese, and then my wife Amber's home with my baby.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us, and thanks for your service. Chief?
And just as a side note, you notice that a lot of our officers have beards. They've been paying a fee through the fall, and we've donated that to charity, the money that's been raised, so.
Oh,
we let 'em-
perfect.
They tried to tell me that it should be hunting season, but then they pointed out the hunting season goes from August till February. We didn't let them go that long.
Okay. Now, you also have some promotions you're going to share with us tonight, too.
Can I get Danny Hammond and Kevin Smith up here first?
Kevin's camera that we make fun of.
We just had you approve these two promotions, and we will promote Danny and Kevin tonight.
Perfect. Okay.
Morgan gonna swear them in?
Do we need to swear him in?
No? Okay.
It's
Oh,
done.
well, that was easy. Stand back up there. Go stand up there so I can take your picture.
Chief, do they have family here tonight for this promotion?
Yeah.
Seen some of them.
That's my son, Jared.
I got 2 of my kids here. Stand up, Bridger. That's my 15-year-old Bridger and Nancy. Stand up. That's my 12-year-old daughter.
Perfect. Okay. Well, congratulations. We're excited for you. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Okay, we're going to kind of move a little bit off the, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, we have a sergeant.
Oh, that's right. You do have 3. Go ahead.
Andrew Harper.
Where did he go?
He was told 6 p.m., so he's running a cab.
Okay.
We can do it
Okay.
at 6 p.m.
We can
That'd
do
be
him when he
perfect.
gets here.
Okay, thank you. we are going to change the schedules a little bit. We'd like to go ahead and ask Morgan if she'll go ahead and help us with the Christmas light contest winners. And so, Morgan, you have the information, and we're excited about this as well. So if you take a moment and just share that with the group.
So yeah, and then let's have us go down, and then you can announce, and they can come up. Is
Yeah.
that how you want to do it?
So I don't know if everybody's here. I let them know.
Okay.
So we had 3 honorable mentions. We had 16 houses put in for the contest this year. We had 3 honorable mentions. I'll announce those first and then go to the ones that won. So our first honorable mention was John Vine. John Vine's home. He has entered, I think, several times and won a few times as well. Stephanie Ware and Jason Skeen. I think Jason's won a few times in the past. I don't know. Yeah, I'll mail those out. So then our third place winner was, who's here? Right there. Tell me your name.
John Vine.
John Vine, here we go. Here you go. Thank you so much for participating. Go on up and shake everyone's hand. So our third place winner was Steve Goralski. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're so festive.
I try to be.
You look just the part. His address is 5843 South, 2950 West. Thank you.
You bet. Merry Christmas.
There you go, Santa. Thanks, Santa.
You bet. Merry Christmas. You bet. Thank you.
Now, if the next 2 aren't dressed up like Santa, I'm going to be pretty sad. Our second place winner here was David Parker. His address is 2484 West, 4400 South. So, okay, and then our first place winner this year was Lance Carter. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't know. What's your address?
4360 South.
4360 South, 2350 West. So, okay. Thanks, you guys.
Let me just mention, if I can, I had an opportunity, as well as the other council members, traveling around the city and actually witnessed all of the homes that took part in this event. And there's some really great Christmas lights out there. And so we really encourage you. I'm not sure if some of the family members or the homeowners will allow that address to be posted. Maybe it will be public information now, but that's an interesting conversation. But the fact is that I had that opportunity, and there's some great stuff out there. If you get a chance over the next few days, please take advantage of that. The people really get excited about Christmas lights, so we're excited with that. So having said that, Chief?
Got Andrew Harper here. Now.
Perfect.
Apologize for my tardiness.
He was just, went through our process in October and is now promoted to sergeant. He's our new
Okay.
sergeant.
Oh.
Congratulations. Have you got family here?
I told them to be here at 6.
We'll find a moment to make sure we take advantage of that. So just have them ready when we're available. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, council, for the record, I'd like to take the appointment of the Business Advisory Board members and table that for now. We've got some things we need to finish on that. We'll have that ready for the 15th of January council meeting. We'd like to have consideration of Resolution 18-34 adopting new fees for the Bowery rental at the Royal Aquatic Center. And Travis, you're going to talk to us about that?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, a few months ago we came to you with different fees for renting of the Aquatic Center as a whole. At that time, we should have included our Bowery. We rent our Bowery inside the facility that people can rent out for the day. They would get a discount on people that then get admission into the facility. We are proposing to keep the resident rate the same at $75 and raising the non-resident rate to $80. It stays consistent and more in line with what we've done across the board here. So we ask for your consideration in Resolution 18-34.
Council, comments, questions?
No.
Okay, do I have a motion then to approve Resolution 18-34?
I make a motion that we approve Resolution 18-34, adopting new fees for the Bowery rental at the Aquatic Center.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second the motion?
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Morgan?
Councilmember Paul?
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton?
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman?
Aye.
Councilmember Burrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have Resolution 18-35 adopting the 2019 City Council meeting dates. Do you want to talk to that a little bit, Jason?
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, we had this transportation plan presented to us by Dr. Joe Perrin in our work session. They have
Yeah, you're.
This one's going to be the council meeting dates. We'll get to the transportation plan here next.
Oh.
So.
Anything you want to say about the dates we're attending council?
No, you guys all have it. We just need to do it by state rule.
Okay.
So
So any comment, question, council, on those dates?
Mayor, I make a motion, we adopt Resolution 1835, the 2019 City Council meeting dates.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I got a first and a second. This is a roll call vote. Morgan?
Councilmember Saxton?
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman?
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya?
Aye.
Councilmember Burrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Paul?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, now we got Resolution 18-36 adopting the new transportation plan. Jason,
There
you
you
want to
go.
talk to
yeah,
that
here
one?
we go. So Dr. Joe Perrin presented this in our work session. Now you guys have the official document plan. They've made the needed changes, corrections. We're here looking to adopt 1836. I do have Dr. Joe Perrin here and Jory with Wasatch Civil if you have any questions. Otherwise, you have the packet and it's ready to go.
Okay, comments, questions, council?
Just a comment. Page 6, I think that their table has got the wrong addresses. Did we fix that? It states 5600 West, and it should read 5600 South. Do you know if they
Hang on, we're
fixed
looking.
that?
We'll look at it.
Anybody?
They'll look at it.
Will they?
Yeah, they're right here. Yeah. Yeah.
With the
If the
changes?
changes wasn't made, yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. Council, other questions, comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion then to adopt Resolution 18-36?
I could do it. Okay, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 18-36, adopting the new transportation plan with the amendment of updating the language of the address on page 6.
Okay, good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Morgan?
Councilmember Yeoman?
Aye.
Councilmember Burrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya?
Aye.
Councilmember Paul?
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we now have a public hearing. We're going to discuss amendment to the general plan, and this will also facilitate amending the zoning plan predicated on this first one. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
Mayor, make a motion we go in public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Steve, would you like to step up and kind of introduce us, and then we'll have public input on this?
Okay, as advertised, this is a consideration to change the future land use map of the general plan from medium-density, single-family residence to commercial. And then the same note to change the zoning map from R18 to community commercial. The three properties in question are those that are highlighted here. There's a single-family home that currently is in the middle parcel. There's three parcels altogether, the single-family home. This is just south of 4800 South and 3500 West, or that 9 acres of vacant land there with the corner of, what is it,
Midland and 4800.
dentist and a future pharmacy. So kind of give you a location just on the west side of 3500 West. With the future land use map, it does show it to be residential, medium density in nature. The zoning map, on the other hand, is a little more hodgepodge or modge podge, however you want to talk about it, where the pink is the community commercial, the lighter green is R110, the kind of beige color is R16, the light yellow is R18, darker green is the RE15, or the new annexation area. So you've got a R18 in the middle of all these other zones. From a zoning standpoint, spot zoning isn't always the greatest. Granted, it's kind of in the middle of residential itself, but it's a different form of the others that are surrounding it. So the applicant is requesting it, one, to change the future land use map to commercial, and then zoning map to community commercial to be in line with the 9 acres just above it. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on December 11th. Some of the comments, there was 3 individuals that got up. None of them were in favor of it. They all live within that area. Mr. Gleeman, and I probably murdered his name, and I apologize. He lives across the street, so if I go back up to the map, of 4950 South and 3500 West, so on the east side in that intersection. And then the 2 ladies live west of the parcels. Most of them have concerns of traffic. Of course, it's always an issue, but with 3500 West being a UDOT road, and it's only going to get wider because the traffic is getting worse and worse, and as you just approved a transportation plan for that area, in the entire city as well, but UDOT is going to widen that to 5 lanes, 2 lanes in each direction and a turn lane. The turn lane should help, but it'll also have some probably shoulder for in and out. The two ladies, again, that live behind it, were concerned with privacy and view. Within the Planning Commission, we talked about, from an R18 standpoint, single-family homes could be 35 feet tall, 25 feet from property line. So their view would be pretty much gone anyway if single-family homes were there. If commercial was built there, it's a 20-foot setback unless the building is taller than that. So if it's a 25-foot building, it's 25 feet. If it's a 35-foot building, it's a 35-foot rear yard setback. So the distance will be greater, so they have a little bit more of a buffer. But knowing that those parcels are as small as they are, you probably won't get more than a single-story building along it, so you're looking at 20 feet. So your view is gone a little bit, but also privacy isn't as bad because you're not going to have that second story.
Hey, Steve, the parcel to the south of that, isn't there a business operating in that currently?
Yeah, that's part of the annexation. It's a assisted living facility, I believe.
That's what I was thinking.
So yeah, that probably could be rezoned commercial, but those do have allowances within the residential, so. Again, the Planning Commission, after closing the public hearing, voted 6-1 to forward the recommendation of approval for both the general plan amendment and the zoning map amendment, and staff recommends the same.
Thank you, Steve.
Any questions for?
Yeah, there might be after we hear from the public. So this is a public comment period. Please, if you'd like to make comment on this particular resolution, ask that you step up to the mic, just give us your name and address, and then share us what you'd like to share with us today.
Yes, I'm Chad Geilman. I live at 4946 South, where Steve was talking about, across the road. Traffic is a nightmare as it is, and we all know it's going to get worse when they double the lane. You put commercial there, and it's going to make it even worse. Steve was talking possibly putting UDOT putting a, I don't want, like an approach to get into those. There's enough accidents right there as it is. And I don't want to sound too crude about it, but Steve buffaloed the zoning commission saying that commercial raises property values. That is as false as can be. I work in Ogden Industrial. I worked in Ogden Industrial. 2 houses there. They could never sell the houses once commercial was around them. There's no way it raises your value. And, you know, with them being in the city, you know, they bought a hook, line, and sinker other than one gentleman that voted nay. I've tried to get others to come and talk, but I was late in getting people to talk to people. Unfortunately, I'm not a very good speaker, not a very good writer, or I would have had a petition, you know, if possible, if we tabled it a month, maybe I could get someone to write a petition and get all the neighbors, because the road coming out off to my south, I've talked to neighbors tonight that they said that's going to be just murder for us. We'll never go left. We'll have to turn right, go down to the intersection, cut through the old bank, and to go back. You know, a lot of them work over in Futura or Freeport Center. They said either that or we got to go up to 1900 and across. You know, anyone in that subdivision that tries to come out of there it's a safety hazard, and it's only going to get worse with the double lane. But then you add more traffic with commercial. Supposedly there's already a dentist interested in one of the lots. You know, not like we need more dentists, and we've got 2 of them right there right now. So that's my 2 cents. So I would ask that if you're not in favor of it, that maybe we could even table it for until next month, where I can get a petition signed and bring a lot of names into this. Thank you for your, like I said, I'm not a speaker. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay. Anybody else would like to come to the mic, share their thoughts on this? Just need your name and address. Thank you.
My name is Dan Phelps. My address is 3766 North, 3675 West in Morgan. I'm the owner of 2 of the 3 parcels here requesting the change. One of the things that I think ought to be mentioned is, in addition to the change to commercial and in talking to UDOT, one of the things that we will do to help facilitate, because clearly we all know that road is bad right now and needs to be improved. Part of what we are going to be doing is dedicating, prior to any construction, dedicating the front right-of-way off the lots to UDOT to further that expansion that they need. So actually met with them this afternoon again about access, and that's one of the things that they're very interested in, is that I volunteered to donate the property to them without them having to fight and sue for it. So, but I've had the property. I actually used to own the assisted living facility next door. I sold it about 7 years ago. They didn't want these parcels, so I just would like to do something with them. I do have a local dentist that's interested in relocating his office there to the one on the north, and so I think it's needed. I've had them for sale. Some of you maybe have seen my sign there for years. The first question everybody asks is it residential or commercial? You say it's residential, and they say, oh, thanks, bye. And it clearly is the highest and best use for it is commercial. obviously with the size of these lots, because once I give about 25% of each lot to UDOT, the building will be small. I would guess by the time we go through the requirements of the planners and the building department, you're looking at a building anywhere between 2,500 and probably 3,500 square feet, not very big. So it really wouldn't be any bigger than a house, and not as high as Steve mentioned those requirements, because you couldn't park enough to justify a two-story building, so you'd clearly just have a one-story. Essentially, it'd look like a nice professional office. So that's why I've requested the change. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to make comment? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're out of public hearing. Council, comments, questions?
I was going to say, I mean, one thing that we have been discussing for quite a while is increasing our commercial, our economic growth. And one thing that is some of our parcels that we've been looking at, because we are landlocked in the city, is do we want to use those parcels that we have available for more of our commercial growth than increase our residential? It's an interesting, well, I was going to say any of our parcels that we have left in the city are in interesting locations and shapes and access and everything. So it's just is another interesting one, kind of the shape and where it's located. I mean, there's been talk about the 9 acres that are to the north of it, you know, and what's actually going to be going in there. Nothing permanent has come to us. I kind of feel having some commercial there, being a one-story, that we can basically maybe state just the size of a house, to where that's one of the concerns that they had. I think as far as like traffic goes, I think there is some things that the developer sounds like that he's going to be willing to do to make that easier. We all know, yes, 3,500 is going to increase in size, and also I can see that access being kind of not limited, but getting in and out, maybe, you know, a couple of easier accesses and stuff to the parcel. I feel that, I mean, we've actually wanted commercial to go along that area. I think it kind of falls in line with that. We've had situations where we've had a small commercial like this butt up against some residential spots. Case in point, the across from Burger King, where the dentist office is.
Phelps Dentistry, 4800 South, 3500 West.
Yes, that's the one. I couldn't remember which
Southeast
dentist.
corner.
Yeah. That was one that we did have a long discussion with the residents, because you were backing up a commercial to them. Some of the concerns was lighting. Some of the concerns was, you know, where's the garbage going to be located, things like this. And we were fencing. We were able to address the fencing around it so that it was so high so that it didn't, you know, it was some privacy against where it was butting up some residential. So those are some things that we can do. And I feel that where we discussed those things in that property, it actually eased the residents and actually became a really nice, you know, addition to that corner. One of the things I was going to say too is that, and then I'll be quiet, is that times when you have a commercial, there's usually, especially a professional type of business like this, their times of operation are usually from 9 to 5. So then there's not a lot of increase of traffic going in there at the nights like there would be if there was residential. If residential on that street, to be able to get in and out of there would be really tough. And I don't know if I would want to be on that street to be able to get in and out. Access is easy. As where if you are commercial, there's really not as much traffic and, you know, going in at different hours of the day. So.
Well, the other thing you look at, if you look over going farther south towards the city boundary, the city border and going farther, as they're looking at widening that road, they're buying up more of that residential property and turning it into commercial, which may very well happen along that whole corridor. We don't know, but UDOT's obviously going to have to buy property, and some of that property makes sense to turn up from residential to commercial at that point. So it's kind of in line with the direction we're headed anyway. I mean, I know there's some concerns, but I would support it.
I think we
Well,
can
one thing
address
that-
some of those concerns with the developer.
Yeah, one thing that's, would have been my question, and I think the question was answered. That UDOT road is still scheduled in Phase 1 to be widened, and it will be a 5-lane road when it is widened. There's no funding on it, but it is definitely in the schedule to be done. And when it is widened, just to deal with the traffic issues, there has to be at least some provisions made if there is going to be modifications or any development taking place, but either residential, and we need to assess that today. The last thing we can really afford the UDOT to do is to come in and people put brand-new homes or brand-new commercial, and then they have to basically come through and tear them down and buy the property and tear them down. It's not in the best interest. But in this case, it sounds like that conversation has already occurred, and there's going to be provisions to ensure that the 5-lane widening operation will be accounted for. And I think the city has to assess that in all of these developments when we know that there is a plan to look at widening 35, 1900, 56, any of those streets where there could very well be some issues. So at least from my perspective, it sounds like that's been in the dialogue, and I like that. You have a comment to that, Steve?
Anytime there's development, residential, commercial along a UDOT road, state statutes require we get them involved.
Right.
So whether he did it today or when they submit a site plan, we request a letter from UDOT showing how, access is going to be, so they approve the site plan and everything else that's involved prior to us finalizing it. So.
And that's really critical that takes place. I just know of a situation a fellow mayor was telling me up in Pleasant View up there, and right now I think they said they had 13 brand new homes. That street will be widened, and the UDOT has no choice now to go into, UTA has no choice but to go ahead and buy all that brand new home property at a sizable expense, in large part because they didn't look at that as effectively in terms of what was coming down the pike. So it sounds like at least my concern associated with that was answered in light of the fact that somebody is talking to UDOT about what's going to happen in the near future on that road. Okay? Council, other thoughts, questions? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 18-26, amending the general plan, future land use map from medium-density, single-family residential to commercial for properties located approximately 4953 South, 3500 West?
I have a question.
Oh, okay, we got a question, so go ahead.
Medium density. What would, it's zone that now, so if we don't go commercial, we keep a medium density, how many apartments or how many houses can park on that piece of
Right
property?
now, it's 3 separate parcels, so you'd get 2 additional homes.
Correct.
It's only 3 homes.
Oh, so there's just, okay.
Yeah,
This
it's
would
not
be-
big enough and wide enough to subdivide into multiple 5, 6, or 7 parcels. It's just over 1 acre in total.
Yeah, so it will probably stay zoned that
Three
way.
together.
Yeah. There's a house sitting in the middle of them and 2 parcels sitting on both the north and south side of that. Okay? Other questions, thoughts?
Thanks.
Okay, let me restate my question. Council, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 18-26, amending the general plan future land use map from medium-density, single-family residential to commercial for properties located approximately 4953 South, 3500 West?
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we approve ordinance number, okay, let's put the glasses on. There we go. Ordinance number 18-26, amending the general plan from the medium-density, single-family residential to commercial for the approximately 4953 South, 3500 West. You need the first one first, right?
Okay.
Or can I do
Yep.
them both together?
Nope, got to do the first one.
Okay.
And then do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Morgan?
Councilmember Burrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya?
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman?
Aye.
Councilmember Paul?
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved, okay. Now we can consider ordinance number 18-27, amending the zoning map from R1-8 to community commercial located approximately 4953 South, 3500 West. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and this is a roll call vote. Morgan?
Councilmember Paul?
Aye.
Councilmember Saxton?
Aye.
Councilmember Burrell?
Aye.
Councilmember Tafoya?
Aye.
Councilmember Yeoman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a presentation we'd like to do dealing with the fiscal year 2018 audit. Matt, I think you're discussing this. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you guys know, we undergo an annual financial audit for the city. They go over a lot of our financials, procedures, state compliance. That we have completed that audit. I brought our auditors, Altina Scott, from Wiggins and Company, and she is going to do a little presentation for us.
Thank you. Ina?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Council members. First off, on behalf of Wiggins and Company, I'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to audit your financial records. As a citizen of Roy, it always interests me how things are going, so it's a pleasure to be here. You have before you the comprehensive annual financial report. I'm just going to hit some highlights. We're not going to go over the whole report. On page 14, you'll find what we have called our independent auditor's report. This is what we call an unqualified opinion. It means it's a clean opinion. We at Wiggins and Company, as your auditors, feel that the financial records and this financial statement are reasonably stated with no material misstatements. So you have a clean opinion on your financial report. Kind of getting into the meat and potatoes of it, if you'll turn to page 30, we have our statement of net position. This is basically what they call a balance sheet. It is the assets that you own, the liabilities that you owe out, and the net difference of that. The assets that you own on a total are $92 million. Your total liabilities and your deferred inflows are $19 million, which means you are a very sound financial position. You have more than sufficient assets to pay your liabilities. That net position is a $73 million surplus. That doesn't mean all of that is readily spendable. Of the $73 million, only $14 million is not earmarked or set aside for something else. So you're in a good, strong financial position. The next financial statement I'd like to point out is the statement of activities. This is basically your profit and loss statement. If you'll go to the very last column on the totals, it shows that your income over your expenses was $2.8 million, which means you have a very sound management staff that's running the financials here. Your income is more than enough to cover your expenses with just a little bit left over to carry for the next year. So Mayor, I'm asking that I present this financial to you, and again, thank you for allowing Wiggins and Company to do this audit.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Just a comment.
Please.
Page 20, I've got to point out that one of the highlights has got to be that our sales tax increased by $280,000 or 5.19%. So that means we're moving the right way, right?
Absolutely. You're getting more commercial in here, which means you're getting more sales tax revenue coming in, so.
That's my dream.
So.
You just made his day, by the way.
Good for me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're
Council, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, let's talk about some of these findings on this that we handed out.
Is that the separate letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Separate letter.
Okay.
So it talks about, we don't have a policy procedure the city will use for recommending disposal of assets. What did you mean by that?
The city actually uses the state policy for the surplus. Surplus is set aside for when assets become used up, not able to use anymore, they start to wear out. Then the city can put those on the Utah surplus, and then citizens or whomever can go on and buy them. The city chooses to use the state policies and procedures, but the city does not have their own specific policies and procedures. We recommended that they come up with their own policies and procedures, even if it's to say that they're going to use the state policy and procedures. But I think it would be beneficial to have your own, in case there's some exceptions you need to have over and above what the state does.
Okay. Then the next paragraph, years ago, the city director of finance performed a cursory review of the internal controls. Who provides the billing service, you recommend we do that.
every 5 years or more than that?
We usually recommend every 3 years, and it's been in excess of 5 since that was looked at.
And talk about how you recommend we establish a reasonable justification for allocation of enterprise funds.
The city, it's hard to explain. So the administration in that, like Matt's time and your city manager and that, they all put time into all of the different funds of the city. For instance, the enterprise funds, which is your utilities and all of that. Right now, there's just a percentage that's used to allocate part of the administration time and the overhead to those enterprise funds. It's been the same percentage that was used in the prior year. As an auditor, we don't like to say just because we did it last year, we did it this year. So we're recommending that some specific procedures put in place so we can allocate those based on reasonable estimates and how those estimates were come across.
So you say, let's raise those from what they have been.
I'm not saying you raise them, you may even lower them, it just depends. But I would like to see a reasonable basis as to why you're using the percentage you're using.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Other questions, council? Okay, I'd like to, Jason, you have a comment?
No.
Okay, I'd like to, by the way, thank you, okay? Thanks for the hard work. Your team did a great job. I want to say thank you to Matt and your team, okay? Obviously, you're managing the financial requirements very well. And in all fairness, thank you to the department heads who are managing within their budgets and doing a great job. Jason, I think the team is doing a wonderful job in making sure we're keeping our organization, okay, right where it needs to be to manage the taxpayers' money. So well done. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And council, I do need, and I'd ask you to consider approval of this particular document. So do I have a motion to approve, okay, this audit that has been conducted?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I make a
Second.
motion to accept and approve the Roy City Corporation Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018.
Perfect. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you got it. Thank you. Appreciate that. And we'll get that information, you'll get the information to the auditors so they have that approval. Thank you, Matt. Okay. We do have a fire and police presentation. Jeff, Carl, you're going to share some thoughts with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Mayor and Council. It's more of a service award than it is a presentation tonight. So this in regards to an incident we had occur in Roy on November 19th, about 11:30 p.m. at night. We had a structure fire that occurred on Chateau Drive. We're giving service awards. That call, the service awards that we're giving out is recognition to employees, specifically fire and police, for exceptional service under extreme circumstances, civilian rescue under life-threatening conditions. On that night, as you are aware, the first responders that responded to that were encountered with extreme conditions with a civilian rescue. With that online, we did have a positive outcome in this with help of PD, some police officers, and our fire personnel that arrived on scene with help of automatic and mutual aid departments were able to successfully rescue a 4-year-old child out of that building under extreme fire conditions. So we just like to recognize them tonight. The good news is the same shift that was on that night's on tonight, so it made it easy. That's kind of why we push it to this council meeting. So we're kind of do this in two parts. We have some officers that are going to be recognized. We had a bunch of officers before our fire personnel arrived. Found out that we did have someone inside the building, a child inside the building, and went above and beyond and really put their lives at risk to try to save this child before we arrived. We had 6 officers, 9, 8, smoke inhalation? Yeah. 6. I think we had 6 that were treated for smoke inhalation out on the scene. All were minor and treated and released. But we actually had officers that were laying down on the floor under smoke trying to get to the child before our guys arrived. So that's just tremendous on our officers. So I'll let Chief Marino, we have some service awards for them first. We'll recognize them and then we'll
I'd like to have Sergeant Shane Hubbard, Officer Ryan Estes, and Officer Shane Burton come forward.
When these occur, it's obviously a team effort. So, you know, we really work together. We train hard for these scenarios, even though we try to train for every scenario. A lot of times with the chaos of a scene like this in a multifamily dwelling with lots of residents and lots of people that we were trying to account for, there's a lot of split-second decisions that take place immediately. So our first responders just did a great job. But it does take a team effort. Without the officers arriving, without dispatch, without our mutual aid support, without our engineers and our captains and our firefighters that arrive on scene and make quick-second decisions, outcomes like this don't occur. So I like to recognize some fire guys for this, and I have a grundle of them because I want to recognize the whole team really for their job well done. They really, without the engineers doing their job and getting water on the fire as quick as we did, and the captain taking over incident command and managing the scene appropriately and making sure we have all those safety things in line, this was a success. So first of all, paramedic Rylan Jordan, see here, recognize Rylan Jordan, he was on that night.
Do you want to bring him, Jeff,
Yeah,
to have him up here
I'll
for
call 'em all up.
pictures?
Yeah, Robert Percival, engineer, one of our engineers. Captain Chase Stark, he was the incident commander on that fire that night. To recognize him. Paramedic Lindsay, she was a paramedic on scene that night. Did Brandon Story make it? There was a couple that was not able to make it tonight. Brandon Story was one. Casey Adams on duty at Farmington. He's one of our part-time paramedics. He was on duty that night. Engineer Chris Stevens. Paramedic Shane Anderson. He was actually the first arriving officer that night. Captain Weed was off duty on vacation, and Shane is one of our acting captains. He was actually first to arrive on that call. Caleb Lewis, firefighter Caleb Lewis. And then last but not least, I just want to make a strong, just want to recognize two of our firefighters real quick. Chris Montgomery and Brady Keene. These are the two guys that actually went through the window under the extreme circumstance without a hose line and rescued the 4-year-old out of the building. So from the time the fire crews arrived on scene and the police, with the help of the police department, we had this 4-year-old out of the building in under 2 minutes, which is extremely fast. We had heavy fire conditions, put water on the fire, and I just want to recognize them for their strong work, their dedication, their service. The two guys that went through the front door are brand new. They both have under a year of service, and they did it without question. They acted like senior firefighters. So with them, I just want to congratulate you and thank you. So I have awards.
Thank you, Chief. Council, comments?
Appreciate their service. That's awesome.
Yeah,
We've
I'm
got the best.
actually related to the family that you guys rescued. And so it's my nephew's grandson. They are very appreciative, had a long talk with them, and could not be more pleased with the service and professionalism that was given by the Royse City Police and Fire Department in this incident, and they are very, very grateful and told me of very many miracles that actually happened that night with their family. And so from my family, because I'm related to them, I give a warm thank you to all of you that participated in that rescue.
Thank you. Excellent comment. Thank you. Well done. Thank you.
Just to add, Council, like I mentioned before, it was a team effort. Chief Marino, we had 2 Riverdale officers that responded that night under automatic aid when the call came in to assist. Chief Marino is going to recognize them as well at their city council meeting and make sure that they get recognized for their service. He'll be handling that as well, so just,
Excellent.
just to let you know.
Thank you, Chiefs. Incredible effort. Incredible effort. Thank you. Okay. Presentation of the municipal park. Travis, Jody.
Mr. Mayor, glad to be up here. That's a tough act to follow. That's an impressive men and women who did an amazing thing. We're here tonight to talk about Municipal Park and what it is we're looking to move forward with. Municipal Park is located at 2252 West, 5900 South. It currently sits on about 9.24 acres. It's a very mature park. Its current amenities include tennis/pickleball courts, a backstop for baseball and softball, a pavilion, 3 full-size basketball courts with 6 hoops, 1 restroom, and a walking trail. Go to the next slide. We'll come back to this one. And we tried looking at a lot of different avenues and wanted to go around and do some different things in this entire project. Some of the things that mattered to us were to keep the character of the park. The park is a mature park with beautiful trees and beautiful landscaping. It brings about several challenges. The park is on a pretty severe slope running east to west. And we use it currently for several soccer activities, but small young kids. It's too severe to play anything older than, you know, your 4 and 5-year-olds that are on small land. Couple other things we tried taking into account as we went through this process was a survey that was done throughout the city roughly 4 years ago that talked about things the community would like to see. There was an area in that talked about concerns of restrooms. We've allocated significant funding to upgrade and update these restrooms that hopefully could become almost a template for future restrooms, maybe that we build in all of our parks. It was important for us to take into account when a few months back Weber State students came and did a presentation where they asked several questions to people at the park, some, I believe, 27 people, of what they would like to see at the park. The amenities there we wanted to enhance. We wanted to enhance what it is about that park that people like. And the 2 things we found that people really, really like about that park is the playground as well as the walking track. I don't have any, this is just a guesstimate on my part, but I would guesstimate that 80% of the people there are there for the playground or the walking trail. So it became important for us to try to find solutions to enhance those things, as well as our Saturday soccer programs and other things that we have there. So here's kind of the idea we've came up with. We were allocated about $125,000 in the budget process to come up with something for Municipal Park. And it's not, it'll give us an idea. The dots you see throughout, or let's start with the walking trail in general. The walking trail, we would look to overlay that entire walking trail. If we were to go back to that very first slide, in 1992, and I think this is really the father of our day of service that we still have every August, September, the community in Royce City built together this walking trail. It's the oldest walking trail within the city. And it gets a lot of use, and we need to put some time and money back into it. So we're looking to spend a significant amount of this money on overlaying said walking trail. Along the walking trail, we are proposing putting in fitness equipment, fitness stations. This is some of the examples of what it would be. It's not, I mean, we don't have to pick those exact ones, but there's chin-up bars and dip bars and ab stations and abilities to work on all functional parts of the body. This is, right here, Jody is showing you pictures from Big D Sports Park in Ogden. It's located kind of by the Timber Mine and El Monte Golf Course. I'd challenge you all to go up there and take a look at it. They have kind of a similar concept up there where around the walking trail they have some of these amenities. We've visited with the principal at Municipal Elementary, and he would like us to incorporate what is known as buddy benches. It's for kids that frankly speaking, don't really have a friend right there, and other kids can see them on that bench and go help them. We would also allocate 3 other high back benches throughout the park. We would take up to $10,000 to upgrade restrooms. We would take $5,000 to do painting and remodeling of the current Bowery that is up there. We also would like to take monies to put in, if you look at the bottom of the screen where Jody's mouse is, those are 2 parking lots. And they're in pretty rough shape, to say the least. And this would allow us to resurface these parking lots. A lot of times that gives a fresh new look to the park. This is our idea, and this is what we think would be good. This is kind of a whiteboard session, though. If you guys have things you would rather us look at, if you want us to explore down different roads, we would be glad to do it. But this is our plan based on our observations of what people use at the park and our best way to enhance those features. If you'll notice, I want to just point this out. The walking trail kind of comes to an end on that section. From about that point on is Weber County School District property. And it's not that we're not looking to be good neighbors, but according to the principal at Municipal Elementary, they're optimistic they're going to be in the next wave of bonding to build a new school. So we didn't really want to invest a lot of money back there, knowing that that might be where the school ends up being one day. We'll take a look at it yearly, but you know, I've talked with him several times. They're looking to do a fundraising PTA effort to put in their own toy feature off in their section of that park area. And, you know, we would encourage and help them with that in any way we could, too. Now I'll turn the time over to you guys with any questions you may have or any direction you would maybe like us to start going.
I have one question.
Please.
Looking at these 2 parking lots, would it be sufficient with the existing parking lot and one of these to maybe turn one of these other parking lots into another set of basketball courts or tennis courts or pickleball courts?
You know, that's a great question, and I'd tell you the day of the week. You know, if you're over there on a Saturday soccer day, they're full. Every parking stall in there is going to be full. The other 6 days of the week, probably not. You know, but it's that old question of, do you build parking for your highest day or your lowest day? And yeah, it's possible. I mean, at basketball courts, we actually looked into that option. We could build basketball courts for probably an additional $130,000. That's about what it would be if you wanted post-tension concrete basketball courts like on 40th. I want you to think 40th heading up to McCady. Those are post-tension concrete courts, and that's, Jory, am I saying that? That's pretty accurate at about $130,000. You know, we can spend money really good. So we're willing to do anything that you guys would like to see there.
Okay. Other comments? Council?
Okay, I have a couple. You answered my question about the trail because I was wondering if we were going to look at going to, you know, where it connects with the school, but you've answered that question. Okay, you said that the school was interested in the buddy benches, was one of the comments. I know we mentioned it up here as a council, but the school children, okay, no, I agree. Buddy benches, I think, are good in any type of park atmosphere because I think it gives the kids the ability. But it's not going. Are they going to be up towards the school more? You know that the school is going to be using these buddy benches when the kids are out on recess. Do they go that far during recess? Are they able to use the whole park during recess?
They use the playground.
They use it. Okay, so that okay.
They use
I
the
didn't realize
playground,
that.
and then they'll head out almost directly west. That isn't even necessarily on this.
Okay.
There you go. In that section that isn't really part of the other one.
Okay.
You know, and we would have those ones maybe earmarked closer to the school,
Okay.
but some of the other ones would be spread out throughout the walking trail as a whole.
Okay. My other question is how old is that playground equipment?
You know, it's, I
We didn't
looked it up.
earmark that to improve that at all, but I was kind of questioning how old it is.
And I'll double check. I looked it up, and I believe it's one of our newer ones.
Okay.
It's about 10 years old.
Okay.
It's still highly functional. It's still being used tremendously on a daily basis.
If the school's using it.
It's we're kind of a little bit lacking of space to add anything there. It's about as packed as it can be, according to some of the playground experts we've spoken with.
Well, and if the school is using it for their recess time, I'm sure that if there was a need for us to be able to improve that, seems like we would want to work with the school district in order to add some money to be able to improve.
Joint partnership.
Yeah,
There's
to
no
improve that
doubt
playground.
we have a great relationship with the school district, but there is, in full disclosure, there's no doubt we need to have conversations with them when there's damage and things like that to get a more amicable decision on it.
Okay.
Travis, I got a question. I mean, it's a huge amount of green space. I know you say it slopes east to west, but Jory, question probably for you, what would it take to make it level out running it north and south, or even east to west, whichever be?
So just looking at it roughly, I mean, it would consume at least all of your budget, maybe more, but it is a pretty significant drop. I mean, a couple feet across the whole thing.
I know you'd have to have like a two-tier thing up on the east side higher.
We kind of looked at it briefly, like even just grading that area, but I would imagine it would consume most of your budget there.
So,
It's a lot of earthwork.
Right, but if you did it around $130,000 to make it possible.
We can look at it a little closer, but just our rough number was saying that probably consumes everything, and we kind of backed away from that. But
So, I mean, it's something you really need to look at, you guys, because it's a huge amount of green space that is not being used. The green space is something
I would agree with that.
You know.
And we can look closer at that. I mean, it was very preliminary when we looked at it, but we just kind of said, hey, if this is the direction you're going to go, that's probably the direction. I mean, that's about it. You're going to get. So we can look at it closer.
Yeah, and I would just piggyback onto that. It was probably, my team's call when we talked the cost of it to say maybe we ought to look at something else. But it's clearly something that we can readdress. I think we, from top to bottom, Jory, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we estimate it to be almost 6 foot of difference. I think from the east to the west, you and I and our Jody and Steve kind of estimated it to be about a 6 foot slope at that point in time. So you are talking a massive amount of work, but where there's a will, there's a way. There's no doubt about that.
Say, let's see how much it would cost to make it happen.
I thought that was one thing when one of our discussions about this park is why we kind of went the fitness route. We didn't have really any other park that really has this type of fitness area, and so that's why we were kind of making this one a little bit more unique and available to pull other type of people to this park to be able to use it for these services.
That is a great point, and I should have mentioned that earlier. It does create a different idea for this park than any other park. Every other park we have right now is centered around sporting fields. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of the main feature of the park, except this one. This one, it's not. The ball fields aren't the feature. The tennis court is not the features of it. Where West Park would be, the baseball, softball, soccer, lacrosse fields. It's the sporting surface. We thought, this gives this park a unique perspective to do this. That was kind of our take. It set it out and made it different than all the other parks. Talking to Ogden City about their sports park, they've been really happy with it. They've seen good use at the Big D Sports Park, and they thought it was a good direction to go. But we're Roy, so we need to decide what's best for us.
I like something you just said, Big D Sports Park. We got anybody that wants to throw some money into this from the community?
I can't say yes to that at this point in time.
Jody's a pretty good sales lady. We got to get her
She's
out.
excellent.
Yeah, I mean, definitely in the proposal, this is us giving you based off of the funding you guys have already allocated to us in this current budget.
I'm just wondering if we can get somebody
going above
to
and beyond that stuff.
put in or match it, and we'll put their name on it.
I mean, there's good points to say, hey, let's make some great improvements, make it better than what it is, but also, as Travis says, it is I'm going to call it a neighborhood park. Mm-hmm. And it's a nice neighborhood park for that neighboring community. And maybe if I live there, I'd say, hey, as good as what it is, I don't need more people coming in at my park, because they own it because it is their neighborhood. It's been that way for a long time. When we were kids, every football team in the city practiced there, regardless of slope or not. Times change, neighborhoods change, people change. So I guess we as a council need to decide, hey, do we want to leave it a neighborhood park with few amendments, or do we want to make it any more than what it could be?
Good comment. Other comments, council? Oh, Brian?
Yeah, just a couple. I talked to Travis, was it this morning? My
Yeah,
days are all blending, so it's probably the Christmas thing. But I talked to Travis this morning, and we went over and looked at the park probably 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, right in there.
And I live over by that park. Like, I can walk to that park from my house. And it's more of a leisure park, for lack of a better word. Travis was right. It draws a high number of walkers, and it draws a lot of school children. The only thing I wish we could address is the playground. I feel like there's got to be a way we can make that more accessible for those students, that because I know there's many students that go to that school that have challenges. And if we could address that somehow, but coming in and leveling it and making it work that way, I don't know, we might take away the beauty of what it is. That's my opinion.
It is a very scenic park. In our observation period, we see many families taking pictures over there by the trees. It's got very mature landscaping. It is a very picturesque park. We can look into playground stuff, you know, I mean, it may be some more playground stuff, ADA-wise and different things like that. We have no problem looking into that.
Okay. Well, and I think for that comment then, Travis, I think you got some ideas. Maybe the question would be maybe you can take some of these recommendations, kind of look at them, and then come back to the council one last time and maybe formulate that. And then the harder question would be I think there needs to be public input. Would you consider maybe doing a town hall in that municipality building right there? Excuse me, it's not municipality, it's a school now. Would you consider going in there and maybe just invite the neighbors to have a voice in this conversation and listen to what they have to say? And then maybe from all of that, we could walk away with a real good plan for what the future of that park will be next year.
Yeah, Councilman Saxton has already indicated that he would like to see a town hall meeting, and that's something we'll gladly do.
But we need some vision. And then some of the comments you've heard here, I think, could give you some really good ideas. And then I say we take that to the public and let's hear what they have to say. And then if it sounds good to them, it works out great for us, we can find the funding, then I think we ought to press that. But may I also suggest that there is a partnership here between the school district and the municipality. If there's any way, and Jan, maybe you can help us a little bit. Well, probably not. You're going to get yourself in a new position, so I've got to keep you clear from that. But I don't have any problem going to the Weber School District Superintendent and see if there's a way by which we can partner in what we can really make happen there, because surely there's some benefit that takes place in part both the school as well as the community members there. So if you can come back with your ideas, let's try it.
I have a question on the fitness equipment. Like, what do we think about the usage on that? I mean, have we polled the neighbors? Have we polled the people that use the park currently?
and we haven't necessarily. We talked to the Weber State students. Did talk with, like I say, like 27 people and asked them a series of questions. Would you be interested in it? It was pretty general. This got a pretty high rating from it, but the questions were very general. You know,
As far as the school is concerned, I mean, these pieces, I would worry about that, just as far as what what kids would do on that, what they would use it for, you know, and the liability of them
Kind of along with
using that
that,
kind of equipment.
my wife is the PTA president of West Haven Elementary, and they had a fitness section on the older kids, the fifth, sixth grade section. They actually removed most of that and put in a playground. So it depends on what population you're going after. If you're going after the younger crowd or if you're going after the older crowd. Maybe you find a mix in the middle to where we can do a little bit of fitness stuff for the older crowd and enhance the playground. That's why I was wondering if we could get by with not resurfacing one of the parking lots and put the money into something else in the park. Just a thought. I still think we ought to find a sponsor. Larry Miller, that might be a good name on the park.
Well, but I think to your point, and Brian, this is your community. You've got a mix of people that you would utilize and do utilize this park. And so, not to suggest for a second that the youth are not important to this conversation. They are. But let's not also suggest is that can this park also meet the needs of those who may be a little more mature? And maybe there's some things we do there. Because you have to admit, when I drive around the parks in the spring and the summer and the fall, they are loaded with a lot of youth, in large part because of the activities and games that you sponsor. But there's still a lot of adults that really take advantage of the walking and involved with that. So let's not exclude, okay, our ideas in terms of them, because I think they also play in this. So just come back with some ideas and let's see if we can do with it. And then more important, let's take it to the community.
Well, and Travis had mentioned to me this morning that in going down there and observing, he found that it was both the really young and the old that utilized that park. And so maybe we ought to make, if we can, both groups happy by, you know.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about, you know, this equipment is it's designed, it can be designed for a pretty broad scope of people. And we can look at it and maybe give you some specific examples and things like that. That's not a problem.
I think it's good in there, like you said, to set up the neighborhood meeting and see what the neighborhood says about the plan.
Yeah. You okay with that, Travis?
Absolutely.
Okay. Hey, thank you. Great presentation. One last thing before we jumped into the salary survey. Officer Harper, have you got family here yet? Did he leave already? Did he leave? Oh, I was hoping we could introduce him, but thanks, Chief. I just want to make sure that we included him if we can. Okay, Jason, we have a conversation talking about salary survey between you and Matt.
Yep, so Mayor and Council, I've talked with most of you in the last couple days about this topic. A lot of you would like to do a special work session to go over all the nuts and bolts of this. Kind of some of you have different opinions on what you'd like to do. The last work session we talked about was maybe doing a third and a third and a third. Matt and I maybe have a way that we can maybe incorporate the whole city into it. Still, our goal is to do this mid-budget year, so we still have some time, but just make sure we do it right. And I think we schedule that as quick as we can. I know Jeff has lost 2 more guys or is losing 2 more, so if we can schedule this in the next 4 or 5 days, I think that would be great. Some dates, the 27th or 28th of December, or if we can't do one of those days, maybe the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th of January. So I would like to get this going quickly so we can kind of help the fire department stop that bleed if we can.
Thoughts, council? This is a work session.
No, I agree. I mean, I think most of us have met with Jeff on his concerns with salaries, and he's come up with some great options. But I think also with staff, I think we can also look at other, you know, some options and stuff and make sure that we can come up with a plan. So, yeah, I think we need to.
Work session would work. The question is that we do have, we oftentimes get a lot of commitments right now as we go through this holiday season. So the question is, do you want to do it before New Year's or do you want to do it shortly after?
We only have one meeting on January the 15th.
That's correct.
I say we push it right past the 1st
Do it the
Maybe
first
when-
week in January?
So the second, third, or
'Cause
fourth?
you're right, we only have one meeting in January.
So it'd be nice to do it before, so maybe by the 15th, we've got a game plan that we can go forward with.
You'd have to do, the week before is 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th.
Yeah.
So not the second, third, or fourth, Dave?
I'm okay with that, but is anybody out of town?
I'm out of town, but I'm out of town this,
You're out of town for city council. Are you going to be out of town for that too? That meeting?
I'm not out of town. Oh, I am.
On the
Yes, I'm
15th
out
of January.
both times.
Yeah. Talk to me.
I can be here. Let's
Okay.
get it done.
Joe?
I'm out the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
7th, 8th, and 9th, Jan's here.
Okay, so we okay with that?
Do Wednesday the 9th or Tuesday the 8th?
Let's just keep it on Tuesday the 8th.
Tuesday the
Okay.
8th? Tuesday?
Okay, we'll call a meeting on Tuesday, the 8th of January, plan for that, and it'll be a work session. Okay, anything else you want to share on that?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a presentation on affordable housing. Brian Mortensen? Oh, obviously, Brian Mortensen, I'm sorry. Have we got charts we're going to pull up?
Yes, I emailed them, or I can bring up my computer. What is easiest?
I emailed all, it's in your packet.
Yeah, I've got the charts. I'm just going to show up for the rest of the people who may want to,
What time's that work session? You doing 5:30?
We can do 5:30, stay with 5:30.
What page number might that be on? One of 229.
Sorry, I'm gonna turn it on first.
It's usually me having to type it.
Steve, you should be able to help her fix it.
That's why I always have the problems.
Is it not working? There it goes.
Share my
There.
notifications. Okay.
It's hot.
All right.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you
joining
for
us.
having me, and I will be respectful of your time. I recognize you've had a busy night. My name is Bryn Mortensen. I work for the Salt Lake Chamber. I'm an Ogden girl, though, so this is great to be close to home. As the Salt Lake Chamber, we represent the broad business community here in Utah. We have over 8,000 members in all 29, in all counties, and representing all 74 chambers of commerce, all run up through us. So for that reason, we can say we represent the broad business community. So about 2 years ago, 2 to 1.5 years ago, we had business leaders throughout the state coming to us saying that their employees were having a hard time finding housing. And that's housing across all markets, apartments, new and existing homes. So this isn't solely that low-income affordable housing. And so what we did is we partnered with the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute up at the U and commissioned a study, which is what rapidly rising prices mean for housing affordability. And Natalie Gochner, who is the chief economist, coins this as a landmark study. It's the first of its kind in the nation that looks at a housing market across the state. It looks back a generation, which is 26 years, at our current generation and a generation forward. And what we found is that for the first time in 40 years here in Utah, we have more households, so that's families and individuals, than housing units. And this deficit is 54,000. So we are 54,000 units short here across the state. It also told us that if you take a median home across the Wasatch Front in 1991, that last generation, $125,000 home, that same home at Utah's growth rate over this last generation would be $347. When at the national growth rate, which you can see here, would only be 184,000. So our housing price index percent change is the 4th fastest in the country. So what we're concerned is that with these rapidly increasing housing prices, we're going to start pricing out those that we need and want in our communities, our school teachers, our firefighters, our policemen. I got emotional hearing about that. Those that we need in our community. The report told us in the next generation, if trends persist, we will be equivalent to today's Seattle market. So what the report told us is there's 5 components of this housing cost. One is the housing shortage I mentioned. Second is construction and labor costs. We have a dwindling construction workforce. For every 5 individuals that leave the construction workforce, only 1 is being trained to fill that spot. And local zoning ordinances and NIMBYism, the not in my backyard and pushback from residents, and inability to zone. Land costs and topography, you talked about it earlier. We can only grow so far. We have the lake, we have the mountains. In the 90s, we had the ability to continue to sprawl when we had a housing shortage, and we frankly don't have that luxury anymore. And then last, we are leading the nation in job growth in the last 10 years in economic growth, and we're also leading the nation in population growth. What is kind of the misconception is that it's all of these Californians and people from Arizona and everyone moving in, which is a part of the piece of the pie, but the majority of our growth is internal. It's our kids, it's our grandkids, it's me wanting to stay, live close to families and communities that they love. So what we did as a business community is we recognized we all have to work together. So we launched the Housing Gap Coalition, who's chaired by Steve Starks, another Weber County boy who's president of Utah Jazz, and Clint Betts, executive director of Silicon Slopes. And having a broad-based coalition, getting local government, our MPOs, Wasatch Front Regional Council, advocacy groups, everyone at the table trying to work together to address this. So possible solutions, I have to tell you, as I'm visiting every city council across the Wasatch Front. We use Roy as an example for using this transportation and land use connection program through Wasatch Front Regional Council, recognizing the importance that land use and transportation have to play together, can't be in those silos. So thank you for being such a great example of that. As a business community, we are trying to address this construction workforce shortage. We have partnered with the Keys to Success program, which is gets into local high schools, and we are working to build this Build to Success program. Right now, we've launched an app with over 7,000 students who've signed on. About 7,000 students have signed on, and about 700 students are signing up each week. In this app, they go through and choose which careers they're interested in. If they select any that have to do with construction or work with construction or the trades, they're placed into this Build to Success program, where they will start to get push notifications from the Ogden Weber Technical College for here in Roy about different courses that are offered and certificates. They will also be invited to an open house this spring where they can meet with contractors that work in this field and then receive summer internships. So they are getting the education and they're getting the experience, and hopefully we can start to rebuild this workforce. A journeyman plumber after 4 years makes 6 figures. They're great jobs that high school students aren't interested in or don't know about. And so we're trying to rebuild the workforce. And then lastly, to combat that NIMBYism, we are launching a public awareness campaign in January. We partnered with the League of Cities and Towns and Wasatch Front Regional Council and did a deep dive into public sentiment around growth. And what we found is that we surveyed over 2,200 respondents. And what we found is that it's the #1 most important issue in high growth areas is this housing affordability, but that individuals want their communities to stay the way that they were when they chose to live there. But transportation options and mixed use help them understand. We found a persuadable audience, who this is them. And then these are the key messaging. When housing is tied to facilitating economic growth, when it addresses skyrocketing trends, when it supports different life stages, either new into the market or downsizing, and provides options for children and grandchildren, it's easier to understand, and we can help our citizenry understand the importance of planning for the future. Our population growth is happening. We're set to double in the next 50 years. And if we stick our heads in the sand and we don't plan properly, we will lose our quality of life and everything that makes Utah great. But by planning appropriately, we will be successful, and we have to do these things. This is the campaign will launch. She'll launch on all 3 areas. And then I'm, as I said, visiting every city council. And as we do this, we have these call to actions. And as I said, Roy is a great city to visit because you are doing so well. So thank you. Breaking down the silos, we make policy decisions in, connecting transportation, land use, all of those things. Updating general plans and moderate income plans. And if I'm correct, I believe you did your moderate income plan just this year. Being innovative about redevelopment. What a new life and innovation of a new life of an old business park, old retail, old homes. You are being innovative and providing a variety of housing types and options for people of all incomes and all stages of life. And then lastly, we have a very vanilla resolution that I will send over to Morgan. It just states that you recognize that we have a housing shortage and that you're committed to doing your part, doing these things, and you are welcome to make changes and do whatever you feel comfortable with. But we're asking cities to sign that so we can show the broad support that we have. Because as I said, we have to work and plan together to keep Utah the best place to live, work, and do business. This is my contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. We're pretty active on Twitter as well. But I'm also here to just hear any questions you have, any way that we can support you as a business community in our efforts.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any questions, comments?
No, that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Well done. And to your point, we just issued a contract in partnership with Wasatch Front Regional Council to start looking at a general plan amendment. And so that will be taking place over the next few months in this next coming year. So timing is perfect. Okay. We have public comment period. This is an opportunity for you to step up. If you give us your name, your address, and talk about anything you'd like to talk about. Anybody have comments, thoughts they'd like to share? Name, address.
Glenda Moore, 2088 West, 3825 South.
Thank you.
I would like to put in a request that we change the procedure slightly for the house decorating contest. I would like to request that we ask people when they submit their house if it's okay if they are published, and then I would to have their address published, and I would like to have all the addresses published because people want to go see all of them, and this way they don't see them. So, and then there could be another publication later on that said these are the ones that won, you know, first, second. But I think it would be nice to have all 16 published so that we can all go visit them.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, Glenda, I agree. I've seen some wonderful decorations. I had to drive around quite a bit to see them, but it was great to see that.
Yeah, there's lots of people on Facebook that say, is there any place I can go look at lights?
To look at lights,
and
yeah.
stuff. So this would be good.
Okay.
Would it be feasible, sorry, Glenn, I had a thought, because I mean, would it be feasible if we do that, you know, next year to have where it's more published, the houses, to have the public be able to vote?
Oh, I think that'd
too
be
in it, and not just have
People's
it be.
choice.
Yeah, like a citizen's choice or
Yeah,
something.
we can do it however you want. We can make adjustments,
Because it actually, I mean, when we, you know, as a city council driving around, it's really interesting to drive around the city and see the different lights of, you know, all the houses and stuff like that. My husband's always like, oh, I love that one, I want to vote for it. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, they didn't nominate themselves. But there is a lot of good houses in the city for people to be able to go around. And I think it'd be cool that the citizens get to vote too for it.
Okay, good advisement. We'll take a look at that. The only thing I have, Andy, reference to that would be is there needs to be some declaration on the part of the homeowner to determine whether or not their housing wants to be published. So that had to be clearly defined.
When
Okay.
they submit when they nominate.
When they nominate, yeah.
Sign off something that says, yeah.
Yeah, that we're willing to do that. Okay, yeah, good idea. Anybody else have something they'd like to share with us tonight? Okay. I see somebody thinking about it. Thank you. All we need is your name and address. Thank you.
name is Stan Holing. I live at 4307 South, 2675 West. I sent an email out to every one of you yesterday. I've only had one response from Joe Paul. That's a little disappointing. I did talk with Andy Blackburn on the phone yesterday. We had a colorful conversation. But in that, after that conversation, I did contact many of the local municipalities and with regards to their city ordinances for winter parking. I think that something has happened here in Roy City, and I've been a long member here of Roy City and served on Planning Commission, served with the Roy Days committees, been very actively involved in Roy City. But I am disappointed with the change that you made October 1st with regards to the winter parking. I understand that you received complaints. I understand that people were complaining about this, but tell me you're not even that you're still receiving complaints with the new one. And I'm here, one, to say your thought and your actions were good, but you brushed it with a wide brush, a broad stroke. You opened it up. And I've made some examples and talked to people about it that I need you to, I would like you, we would like you to reconsider. I was campaign manager for your brother Brent for when he ran for office here in Roy.
He's a good brother.
Hmm?
He's a good brother.
Yeah, he was. And we got along well. But recently, what brought me up here is 3 of my friends received tickets last week for parking on the street. It was during the day, and those snow flurries we had last week did not put snow on the roads to the fact that the snow plows had to come out. But they received tickets. Now, what we have to consider is under the old ordinance, you said from 1 to 7 and 1 at night, 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. And that's fair because that's when your people are out working trying to clear the roads. During the day, you become busy. You have activities. You become involved. You might be visiting someone for it. But let me just go over 3 of these that, as I tossed and turned at 3 o'clock in the morning last night. A friend of mine has to park in front of his driveway to help his wife get into their van because of her wheelchair. Okay? If he's parking on the street in the snow the way your ordinance is written, he can get a ticket. He's liability or susceptible to getting a ticket. Another friend has a business in his home doing taxes. His clients must park on the street to visit him. Again, they'll be in the home for an hour and a half. If it's snowing, he either loses the business and cancels the appointment with his clients, or his clients get tickets. Another one is, what if someone breaks down, their car breaks down? I'm thinking more of some young teenager or young child or your young daughter. Sons, I probably don't worry too much about. I raised 5 of them, but daughters, you know, I'd be concerned if my daughter broke down and the only thing she could do is get off to the side of the road the best she can. And because she's doing that and it's snowing, she's going to get a ticket, a parking ticket. Okay? This is the way, how broad that ordinance was painted. The third one that got me also concerned is I have a family party coming up Sunday. And my sons come from out of town. My driveway is not a parking lot. It's not big enough to handle all the vehicles that are going to be coming, so they're going to be parking on the street. Now, I have 2 choices. If it's snowing, I call them and cancel the party because I don't want them getting tickets for parking on the street. Grandma will be very upset with me because then can't see her grandchildren. Okay, the other side to that coin is it could be a pretty good day and not snowing, and they come to the party. It starts snowing, and by the way the ordinance is written, because they're parked on the street, they could get tickets. Okay? So either I close the party down and send them home or something. The third option, my wife kept saying, well, we'll block and a half away, we'll shuttle them from the church parking lot. Well, really? Really? I don't think your intent was to be this hard-handed with cars on the street. I think your intent was to get cars off the street so the snow plows can do their job. Therefore, I'm not here just to explain some problems with it, but I would wish that you maybe even consider some amendments to look at this. In regards to Mr. Blackburn there, I talked with several of the surrounding communities and the police officers. And yes, they have similar ordinance written. Unlike yours, they did put an exclusion in there for all emergency vehicles, which is not in yours. Okay? Just a point of order, I guess. The second part of that was the enforcement, okay? Their police forces have been given a discretion to say, okay, what are the circumstances? Yes, we want the irresponsible. Yes, we want the abusers off the street. I agree with that 100%. But at what point do you make it determine? A police officer can't drive up and look at that car and say, well, they're an abuser or they're not. They don't have that opportunity. But if it takes them 5 to 10 minutes to write a ticket, couldn't it take them 5 or 10 minutes to walk to a door and find out what's going on? What's the difference? I guess my eyesight's on this may be blinded or just can not be insensible. But, you know, I've dealt with the public a long time, and communication is the big key. And people say, well, this has been published this way and that way. I know if you had a car parked on the street after October 1st, you got a little notice put on your windshield about the new law. But the rest of us probably didn't catch it, or we didn't catch it in the literature that was sent out to us. Sometimes if I get my bill, I pull all the literature out and just pay the bill. I think that's more important to you, isn't it? That being said, is there not a level at which the city determines to put their trucks and snowplows on the road? Is there not a level of snow that determines them to move? Okay, I think they must be. Down on our street, sometimes it's 6 inches, 4 inches, whatever. This last snowstorm, there was never a snowplow on our street. And it was only a skiff, maybe 1, maybe 2 inches. In 8 hours, it was off the street, melted and gone. So again, what point is the wisdom? The amendment then could maybe read, subject to the depth of the snow and the need for the snowplows to be on the street. The citations could be then subject to where they're creating a hazard. Ogden City, for example, states that that car has to be actually blocking the road before they'll do something, because otherwise they're going to just drive around them, plow around them. If the car sits there 24 hours, then they tow the car or cite it. And if they cite it and it's still not moved, then they'll tow the car. That's probably the worst that I heard Ogden City do. The Terrace, they're similar to you with the same application. The police force is tied. The courts are tied with how broad a stroke you made, that they got to fulfill the law, period. Okay? I don't think that was your intent. I don't think you were out to slap people down and make minor criminals of us, if you will, with parking tickets. Okay? It has been said that there is a difference between wisdom and knowledge. Wisdom knows the difference. And I think the knowledge that you have with the problems that you have with snow in the streets of Roy, let's use wisdom and take a look at the amending this ordinance that you enacted October 1st, and give us, the citizens, some time to have not a police officer come to our door, but a peace officer come to our door. A peace officer who is trying to do the good for the city and for us, its citizens. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks. Okay, anybody else have any comments they'd like to share? Okay, seeing none, comments real quick, council? Because one of the things I'd like to just mention is that I did read your information. And when Joe Paul, Councilman Paul actually responded, he indicated he was going to put that conversation onto this agenda. And so I didn't respond because I assumed this would be the time to discuss that. But let's do that when we turn over to the council mayor comments. And if you have something, Councilman Paul, then you can make that comment.
I just thought we'd discuss it as a council and listen to what the citizens had to say. And
we did.
If there's a need to make an amendment, we can propose it for a future. But
sure,
there's nothing we can do without it being published and voted on. So
sure. So
can I ask how many citations were issued during that most recent?
I was going to say I'd like to hear the chief's input on this and maybe Public Works. We're going to talk about it.
Well, okay, we'll go ahead and discuss it now. Go ahead, Chief.
I don't have the numbers. I know that
You don't know.
there were probably 30 or 40
Okay.
written.
Thank you.
It's a tough call.
Sure,
If
sure.
we wait till the snow's there, what's the purpose of
It's
writing
too
a
late.
ticket when the plows can't get through? So you either write it before or, we get busy with the accidents and then nothing, then there is no effect of the ordinance. So it's your call.
Understand.
We can do whatever you want, but
Okay, Chief.
that's where we're at.
Thank you. Ross, you have a comment? Well, I think to the question then would be is that you're going to make a call to deploy. How much snow is on the street when you deploy? 2 inches? You'll deploy there too. Okay.
You guys, we work this ordinance ourselves. I mean, we had a problem, we solved it, this is the problem, it's a good solution to it. People are gonna complain when they get tickets, that's just a fact. Not everybody's gonna be happy with it. We do it for the safety of our people and what Ross recommended, and that we should stick by that. And I have no problems with it.
Okay.
And the chief and his
Okay.
people do a great job as determining when they should or shouldn't. I trust their judgment on when they cite the tickets as should.
I didn't have an opinion one way or another. I just wanted it to be brought up because there were several people that voiced concerns about it.
Well, what I wanted to do is the council really has an opportunity to voice a position when we get into that portion of the agenda. So we got surely a comment. I think it's something that we can talk about. If you feel like you'd like to bring it up as part of the conversation, let's do that because it's worthy of a good conversation. So, but I'd really like to get to the next agenda item. Chief, you have something you'd like to share with us?
I was just going to say, when I was here before and an officer, this was much the way the ordinance was back then, and then I was here when they changed it to the nighttime parking. No matter which way we went, we had the same kind of comments that were destroying people's livelihood in their home by however we write the tickets. So
Okay.
you just have to choose the devil that you want.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that input. Okay. We do have some discussion items. Jason, we want to talk about YCC decision. You'd like to lead that conversation?
Yep, so Chief Marino and myself met with YCC, I think 2 days after our last council meeting as directed. Conversation went really well. It was well received. They have some changes that they're making on their side of it. I told the YCC I would bring this back up. I know Chief Marino was satisfied. I was satisfied, so now it's just you guys got to just make a decision.
Okay.
So.
Council comments?
Mayor, since all the questions have come to fruition, everybody's satisfied, I think we just go ahead and approve the same amount we gave them last year of $8,000.
Council?
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Is that what we budgeted?
We budgeted a little bit more, but we budgeted for all sorts of different entities.
It was a pool of money to decide what to dispense.
Yeah, so 8's fine.
Okay, Council.
Is that somewhat congruent with what other cities are doing?
A lot of other cities aren't doing it.
Yeah, I remember that they weren't doing
Yeah,
it.
like Councilmember Tafoya said, we did 8 last year. you know, that's fine.
Well, I know there was some concern that was brought up that we're spending public tax dollars as a charity, but we do contribute to that as a city. I mean, our police do take people there. They are, they're taking care of our citizens. To what level, there was some discussion at. I feel that if we're contributing people to there and they're helping our citizens that are in a bad situation, that we ought to help fund it.
Yeah, it's a Weber County type organization for the whole county to be able to help in those areas.
Is, just a question.
Sure.
Is there a reason it was dropped from 16 to 8?
Yeah, we just felt, I think 8 was a lot more doable for the city, and, yeah, just being fiscally responsible.
Okay.
So is it dropped just this year?
No, we did 8 last year.
We did 8 last year as well.
Yeah.
Okay, council, so I take from the conversation that you're agreeable to approve the contribution from the city to the charitable organization YCC for $8,000. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
Then let the let
Do
the
you need a
record
motion,
show.
Andy, or are we good? Okay.
Yeah, it's already in the budget. Okay, we'll plan for that. So the only other piece we have to do with that donation, Andy, is that there may be some procedural issues that you're looking at in terms of that has to go through that process. Yeah. Okay, you'll help us through that process or help the city work through that. Thank you. Council, getting down to almost close to the end, after the interviewing process of the city manager was indicated, there was some questions associated with the city manager job description at the time. I sent you a paper on that outlining what appears to be some recommendations. I'm just looking from, first, if you have any comments or questions relative to making an improvement based on conversation took place through that process.
I like the proposed changes.
Will the changes work? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I like the or.
It puts both in alignment, because
Yes.
if you looked at the announcement that was sent out and then you looked at the job description, they didn't coincide
They
with
didn't
each other.
coincide.
The announcement coincides with the proposed changes, so at least it's putting both things in alignment. And with the or, you have the option to choose, okay, if they have more
More
experience, they have
education.
less education, or if they have more education, they have
Yes.
less. That's pretty much industry standard, the way it's written in the
Yes.
proposed.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree. I like
Then-
the or.
What do you need from us?
Question, because I need a little bit of clarification.
Please.
So are you saying graduated from an accredited college with a master's degree and 5 years of experience?
Yes.
Correct.
Or some other combination?
Correct.
Okay, because what I might do with that is include B as part of
That's
A.
what I was thinking.
So we'll have that in one sentence together, or 2 sentences together under A, and then we'll put C.
Correct.
I didn't pick this up, but I thought one of the proposed changes I'd mentioned once before is, it says, okay, it says business or public administration. What if they have a degree in finance?
Yeah, that was me. Oh.
Is that, is finance classified as business? Okay. No, I wasn't thinking of you. We've already hired you, Matt. I was just,
Well, we haven't done that officially until the 15th of January, but
then you're
surely
not
the selection
stuck.
process is made.
you could be out,
Are
sorry.
we okay, council, with the recommendation changes?
Yeah, I
that's
think
fine.
combining A and B and then putting an or
Or.
in there.
Okay, then, Jason, let's go ahead and we'll make the adjustments. Andy can clarify exactly how that should be written, and we'll make that work. Okay, hey, we're almost there. Now, council, city manager report.
Only thing, just reminding you of tomorrow's
6
evening
o'clock.
at Maddox, 6 o'clock, and that's it.
Okay, council, any comments? Your
I
time
just
to-
wanted to bring up the discussion about the parking. I mean,
I
we've,
agree.
we've heard about it. I know one of the concerns that I heard about quite a bit before was they didn't like the restriction of, hey, there's not near as much snow today as there was in the day when this ordinance was written. So the majority of the time I can park, I would be able to park on the street, but the ordinance doesn't allow me. So the ordinance was designed to open up and allow people to park more on the street. You do have those situations where if it starts snowing in the middle of the day and you've got people parked there, I don't know what a good resolution on this, but I think overall we covered, I don't think it was a broad stroke, but we covered a big area of not being able to park. We created a small area of, now we have a situation. like the chief said, which devil do you like? I mean, I think overall, the new ordinance as written opens up parking more and is more,
Less restrictive.
yeah, less restrictive, thank you.
Okay, but.
When I was having a family party prior to now, I had to park away from our home if it was sometime in the winter, regardless of whether it was snowing or not snowing.
If it was in the middle of the night from 1 to 7.
If they're there overnight, you're right, Joe.
Yeah. So that's what I was wondering. I mean,
So I think it's.
do we need to put a
it's
time
less
clause in it, or
restrictive.
do we just leave it as written?
We just did it, leave it as is.
Yeah.
There's no reason to change it at this point in time.
Plow during the daytime too.
Yeah, so that's,
And you realize too, we do have discretion as to the police in giving us tickets, and so if there's unique circumstances or whatever, and they come in and talk to us, we can do whatever we think is appropriate, which sometimes might be dismissing it altogether or something.
I have a question. Sir, did you come in and talk to?
I don't think you were given a ticket, were you, Mr. Holine?
Your friends.
Oh,
There's three people that
it
he
was
knew were-
just the three.
Yeah.
In all due respect, I understand the purpose of the law, but I think that I still use the term a broad stroke. I feel like we used the bazooka to hit what a BB gun could have hit. I mean, parking on the streets in Roy is tough. That's why I also brought up the example of what I call several of the neighboring communities about it. I mean, the bottom line is, if we can become a model city with the community, will we please everybody? Heck no. But, one of the comments that came back to me, was from the council, a councilman saying, this was written for irresponsible citizens. Well, that's fine, but don't sweep the responsible citizens up in that same way.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
For this taken. Mr. Tafoya, you seem so dead set that it's done and done and done. Well,
it is done and done and done when an ordinance was done, talked about and that.
We ought to slap our children that hard anytime they disobey.
You take it to the extreme. Council is right. Anybody gets a ticket, we are good with people. All I have to do is go talk to Brody Flint and he'll work it out.
That's what I was going to ask as a prosecutor. Have you had any of the people that's got tickets come in and talk to you?
Yeah.
Approach the podium, sir.
Thank you. I have. I know Matt's people in the front fielded about 30 phone calls that first snow. I think it's fair to say none of them were polite conversations. I've had about 5 to 7 conversations, again, none of which were polite. And there were some people who came and presented real issues, and then I either lessened the fine if I felt it appropriate. They handled it through the normal channels. So we are dealing with that, and we still deal with that. I've dealt with that since the start of my career. When someone gets a ticket, it is under my purview as well as Andy. If we feel it appropriate to reduce a fine on parking tickets or those sort of things, we do those, and we talk with people. And I could go into...
I would imagine you get more with honey than you do vinegar. You're going to get farther down the road.
With what I do, most people can't spit enough vinegar, so it really...
But exactly, that's the point. Whatever be the law, ordinance, there is a process that has to be followed.
There's discretion.
And we have that, and you got to trust the people that run the departments for their discretion, and we do. These guys do a fantastic job.
I was going to say, my comment is that there's common sense that comes into play. You can we do write laws and ordinances, and we set them so that they are to be followed. But I think along with that is common sense. And I agree. I think it's, okay, the ordinance is broad enough that when it's snowing, you don't park. I can see the flurries coming or it's icy. I don't know, that's tough. Because I could see where the police are having a hard time judgment, cut and dry, okay? It's snowing, you got a couple, they're gonna write those parking tickets. I don't know, I feel that common sense has to come into play somewhere. And I feel that common sense has to come into play, but I don't know how,
It might come into play at the court level.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I was
where
gonna
it
say
might.
somewhere I feel like
'Cause Chief Marino can't
I know, 'cause
predict.
then
His
he-
crystal ball is
right.
broken.
Well, I know before, I mean, I don't want to use the term common sense because that's a bad thing, but being somebody that's plowed snow for the city before, I used to run plow for Bountiful City, I understand that. When I've had something going on at my house and had multiple people on the street and it starts snowing, we all load up, go move our vehicles and carpool back. Just because I'm aware that I know what it's like to try to plow around vehicles, whether it be 12 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock in the night, it's tough. And so to find ways to work around it, I think it opens up and it's less restrictive and there's more
It is.
availability for parking on the road. You're going to have those one or two situations where you've got to make your best judgment call, and maybe that's begging for forgiveness, I don't know, but I think we have a judicial system that can take all that into consideration.
What, can I just?
Please, Brian.
What's odd is when we made this change, I got a couple of people that called me and complained that we had made the change because they felt like the winter parking regulation was the only way they could get their neighbor to make their car move out in front of their house. And I just want you guys to know that this change has cost me 2 good plates of fudge from neighbors that have not yet to come over to see me this year.
There you
So
go.
there you go.
I'll make up for it.
But anyway, so I don't know what can be, I don't know if there's ever gonna be that happy medium, but in turn, I hate to burden our police with any more than what they've already got to patrol at night. I mean, the world's kind of zany, and I can't see them door knocking at an odd hour. That'd put the fright into me, I know that. So.
Well, then let me offer a thought. I'm sensing we've got 2 really fundamental issues. One is it's a standalone document, let it rest as a standalone, or if there's an opportunity to provide what appears to be some level of some common sense that we should maybe include that, then the question is, does the common sense go into the police force, which you put provisions within the policy to define that, or is the common sense rest with the courts, in which case the prosecutor simply says, okay, that makes sense, and therefore I can make some judgment. Otherwise, it stands as is, and that's really the question. And so if you say, well, listen, we can take just a real quick look at it, then we can walk out of here with really no intention to change, but look what appears to be maybe a common sense approach to it and not burden the council unless we think there's really a solution here. Otherwise, it stands as it is. Would you want us to, as a city, just take a cursory look one more time at it and see if there's a solution, or do we simply say as it stands as is and let's move on?
It stands as is and move on.
That's Dave's position. Common sense look. Anybody feels like we just take one last look before we, because we can't do anything until probably January or February, in large part because it will take a resolution or an ordinance change to make that happen. And so
You've got to put it you got to post it. And
yeah, there's a variety of things that take place. Thoughts?
I just don't think that the police force can predict it.
I think it's black and white to the police force, and then it goes to the
Tough
judicial
situation.
system for leniency or.
Yeah, it's too late by the time they have.
Oh,
to
agreed.
make
I'm just saying
common
because
sense.
I'm
Right.
in the middle of a conversation that suggests are we doing enough? Are we doing we're not
I think
allowing enough?
I think
Mayor,
it
if I could
stands
say,
as
we
is.
put a lot of time
Please.
and effort into this. Brody
He
looked
did.
at statutes all across the state.
He
We
did.
looked at it, this is what the council determined to be the
Agreed.
best thing. I haven't heard of one suggestion to modify it any different,
No.
other than us going back and repeating exactly the same thing that
And
we've
that's,
already done.
yes, my
So
fellow
I-
council
and-
members,
and we
there's a
can't
point you
always
have
make
to
everybody
decide.
happy.
You've made a decision,
Yeah.
you stick with that decision. Just because you get a complaint, 1, 2, or 3, doesn't mean, we need to switch it right or in again.
No, I just brought it up for
Right.
discussion. Like I said,
And there's
I don't
you need to
have
be
an
able to be
opinion.
straight with people, say, sorry you got the ticket, you got it, live with it, go to the court and deal with it. There's nothing wrong with telling people that. That is the law.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, but all I'm saying is, and I think Chief made probably a pretty profound statement, which is really good. He said in our response back, he simply says, you know, we really never had a chance to take a look at it. And he doesn't want to put his police officers in a discussion that simply says, well, this one's okay and this one's not okay. Whatever the policy ordinance says, we expect the police officers to implement the ordinance as written.
And enforce it.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's what they're there for.
Let the judicial system handle it. Brody needs a little more.
Okay, so
vinegar.
At least at this point, the conversation is leave it as is, council?
Yep.
I would
Okay.
agree with that.
Okay, let's move on. Anything else, council, you'd like to discuss? Comments? Okay, let me just.
I did want to discuss something, but the doctor left the house, so I'm going to.
Okay. I assume with these, with the calming units? Okay, let me just cover a couple of things. I think, Steve, you probably have the answer, so help us with this. The council's required, which the letter came to the council suggesting is that the affordable housing information sheet that you've developed, is it basically ready to be delivered to the state?
No, it's been delivered.
Oh, okay, you got it there. Okay, perfect. It's just that the letter from the state was directed to the council, and the council was responsible to make sure that did. The city's obviously met that commitment. I've got a copy of the draft. It looked great. If that meets the requirement, this is the first time in 13 years Roy City met the requirement. Perfect, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Steve. That was important to get that done. We had some help with some of the Weaver State students at the time. Last but not least, if I can make just two comments. First thing is that I believe, Jason, you're going to take a series of accomplishments that the city was able to do this calendar year, and you're going to put that in the January magazine. Is that correct? Let me just make sure that when you get a chance to read that, and I hope you do because I'm hoping that all the residents do, there was a whole lot of things that really happened last year that we got done. I mean, the list is incredible. And we can talk to the issues about the big things about annexation. We can talk about the big things about the magazine that was published. We can talk about some great, but there was a lot of great things that took place. And I want you to, if you could, just take a moment when you go through that list that Jason's compiling and just reflect in terms of the great accomplishments both the city leaders and the council was able to do to make things really happen. Can I make this comment really clear? We may get criticized for making a decision, and sometimes the decisions are hard and maybe they're not popular. But I'll tell you something. This council stepped up with the leadership of the city, and we made decisions. Things that really needed to be looked at were looked at. Things that needed to get done got done. And we may tweak some things here and there, but I'll tell you what, there were some great things that took place. And may I make one last comment for you on your accomplishment list? Let's not excuse the fact is that we had an audit that basically was perfection in motion. And I think the public needs to know that their taxpayers is well managed, Matt, and that your team was doing some great things to ensure that the security of this city in terms financially was sound, and they did a great job. Carlene and I sat through that meeting. Jason, you were there. And I just, be honest with you, in that meeting before this one, I kind of felt pretty darn proud that this city did probably the impossible in terms of the great work on the part of the leadership of this team to be able to do some things. And so please, in your list of accomplishments, let's not deny the fact that that audit was great. And although we didn't hear all the things that I heard in that meeting, there were some great things happening, and this team did a great thing. So help us define that, help share that. We have our challenges, but let me make it clear. When we had to step up and we had to make tough decisions, this city made tough decisions, and we got things done. And I think the list that Jason's going to put out there to the public is going to define that very clearly for you. And I couldn't be more proud. Hey, have a great holiday. You have a comment?
I do. Two comments. One, none of those decisions were made in a vacuum. They were all researched. Staff did their part. Council looked at it all. Yes. So we're doing our part. Second thing I wanted to bring up, and it deals with Parks and Rec, is clarifying the naming of parks in the city and making sure that we have names, correct names for all of our parks, and we're actually calling them the correct names. One of them is the big discussion about what sits here behind the city council building. I've heard it called Sid's Pond. I've heard it called multiple things. Does it have a real name?
Jody.
Jody.
So that was brought to our attention, and I tried to research through Morgan on a resolution that was ever given an official name, and she hasn't found anything.
I don't think it ever
There's
was.
a document that says the name of that area.
Do we
Yeah,
want to
I
give it a
don't-
name?
I don't think it ever was.
Well,
I don't remember it ever.
Parks and
being
Rec,
a name.
Jason, it really is in your court. If
Come
you
up
think
with
there's
a
something the
contest or
council
something,
should
I don't
have
know.
or want to consider, surely present that. But I will tell you, Brian did some research in terms of the history behind that, and I was so fascinated, and so is anybody that read that information, about how that park, by every definition, actually come to be. And I think it's a heartwarming story. I'll leave it at your judgment to decide whether or not you think we want to take it any level beyond that. But I'll tell you what, if nothing else, I've asked Brian at some point in time, because I was ignorant of this, he really ought to take that history that he had about that particular area, and he needs to get it out to the public, because it's a wonderful story, a heartwarming story that I think the citizens would really enjoy. That's still his challenge. I haven't read it yet, okay, in the general public, but I think it's something
Well, one
he
of
can
the
do.
things I thought was maybe adding Sid's Pond to part of the name. Maybe you call it something Sid's Pond or that. But the other one is, there's Frank Tremea Roy Park. Do we have correct names for all the parks?
That's all been updated on the website. Currently, I got all the resolutions from Morgan that
Okay.
we have on those, where they list the resolution. The Roy Park, or Frank Tremea Park, the monument is actually being redone as we speak.
Oh, awesome.
He passed away here recently. The family had reached out to us, and that is being redone right now to be put back out. But not every single park has a name. There is obviously several of them.
Well, like Municipal Park, it's Municipal Park. We haven't added a person's name to it. That's fine. I'm just making sure that if we have added a name to it, that it's adequately recognized, like George Wallen North Park. Now we've got Frank Tremea Roy Park.
We have, the ones we have are George Wallen North Park, Emma Russell Park, Frank Tremea Park. We have Roger Burnett Pond at Meadow Creek.
Correct. And municipal.
I said Emma Russell already, did
Yeah.
I? Those are the
Is
ones
Meadow
we
Creek,
have.
is that a subdivision?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Same with, there's one right off 5600 called McCall Fields. That's a subdivision.
So that is a subdivision.
That's
It's,
not a name we bestowed upon it. It's the name of the subdivision.
okay.
Okay.
There was a question about that as well. All right, sounds like we're
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you for
Okay.
your
Just-
research and work on that.
Comment?
Yeah, just FYI. There was a woman by the last name of Sparrow who contacted me about Sid's Pond. And she can remember planting a tree there, and she has offered to buy a teddy bear for next year, and is hopeful that it can go on that tree that still stands. So I think at some point in time, maybe there wasn't a dedication, but there had to be something referenced to Sid's Pond, because otherwise I wouldn't have found what I did about it.
Yeah, we have a monument out there. We'll do some more research.
Okay.
But I don't,
It feels like to me there's just never been a
resolution to actually
that-
name
that
it.
There was an actual event where trees were planted, a monument was put in, and I don't think they took it, I mean, this is long ago, before our time here. And I do.
1990, I was at some of the
Okay, 1990.
But it sounds like
Yeah.
to me they didn't take it that next step and get a resolution to make it official. And that's something we'll be glad to look into and we can bring before you guys in the future.
Okay, and I think that's a fair approach. Council okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, then if you have a recommendation, please share it with us, and we can surely go ahead and make a resolution if you feel it's necessary. Anything else?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I was about to say that. Again, have a happy holiday, okay? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Do we have a second, Brian?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now I gotta share. shoot that guy an email after you've made him a laundry.